DDG. Daryl Dwayne Granberry. More like the doo-doo gobbler. Am I right, guys? Man, whatever.
This is an audience or a mosaic?
When I first started making content, my objective was to critically analyze things from avenues, agreeable or not, that can give people an opportunity to say, oh wow, I never thought about it like that, even if the subject in question was that of a simple deduction. Sometimes I think the things I talk about are very much like a, well, duh, of course that's the interpretation way to go about that particular subject. But to my surprise, that doesn't always happen to be the case, nor does it happen as often as I think it would. Investors, politicians, government officials, content creators, streamers, influencers, actors, musicians, celebrities. In 2025, all these different professions, in a very weird and honestly scary way, intersect in ways that are far more important than a lot of you guys may realize, because it's far more amplified than it's ever been before. Because of this, I've reached both the age and the mind to where I no longer feel like giving out passes to people just because they're entertaining or they're influential. I'm fully aware there are more problems than The Breakfast Club bringing Neon onto their show, and no matter how much they tried to little bro him, they still gave him a platform to extend his audience without putting a dent in his brand, and they made themselves look like clowns. I'm aware that Congress passed a bill that was detrimental to the lives of tens of millions of people in the States. I'm aware Ibrahim Traore's very existence threatens the Western world, because not only is he continuing to break free from neocolonialism, but he's showcasing the relevancy of Marxism is not strictly confined within time-space periods in which it was invented in. As you may have guessed, alongside being a Pan-Africanist, he is also Marxist influenced, and the relevancy Marxism has within the African diaspora and the Black radical movement is something I'm very interested in talking about in the future, as it is something I have been developing further and further into over the past couple years. The point is, there are bigger fish to fry within our domestic regions and globally. But what if those inconsequential problems aren't as inconsequential as we think? What if, in order to expand out, we need to change the structure from within first, in places that hit close to home? What if that little device we've all been glued to where we watch excessive bullshit projected into our community is one of the detrimental things to prevent a critical examination of the problems we face? What if we looked at someone like Daryl as a prelude for the case study into this? DDG is the quintessence of a person who needs constant reassurance, not to ensure that he does things right, but to continue doing things wrong to make profit. Not valiant, not good, I'd even argue not even entertaining anymore, just profitable. And the fact is, DDG knows this. He is aware that he panders towards a certain demographic of people to elicit reactions and commentary to remain circulating and accepted into the higher echelon of pop culture and media. It's an issue many black entertainers and celebrities, from your Ty Lues to your Will Smiths, always constantly face. But where DDG differentiates himself from his peers such as Kai Cenat, the rest of AMP, Sinner, Soul Illuminati, all them boys, is that DDG is such a pathetic fucking loser. But he's a loser out of necessity, because he has nothing left to give, as he sacrificed all elements of dignity to remain in the spotlight. Which means, not only is he a pathetic fucking loser, but he's a sad, pathetic fucking loser. Let me explain. But before I get into that, y'all should know that these videos take a very long time to make. I'll be editing hours into the night, and by the time I'm 30 hours deep, the sun's already on the creep. That's why this video was sponsored by Manta Sleep. Manta Sleep produces some of the most convenient sleep masks out there, but unlike your ex, these are actually comfortable to sleep with an adjustable strap that can fit onto any head size and material that doesn't irritate or cause discomfort. You'll really clock in your REM sleep without thinking about it due to how soft and comfortable they are. In addition to that, they're designed to black out everything, like literally everything. I can't see none. Ray Charles on the keys. Additionally, we know this summer has been putting belt to back, which is why you can equip yourself with these cooling bags so you can really sleep in this summer heat without burning alive. They have an incredible selection, from the weighted mask, the steam mask, the cool mask, the mask for your kids, and my personal favorite, the sound mask with built-in Bluetooth speakers, because if you're like me, I love listening to soothing sounds when I sleep. It just really sends me to a different place, you know what I mean?
And as we ride to certain death, we trust our successors to do the same for us!
So go in the description below and get yourself one of these really cool masks using the code RDXCity to get 10% off your purchase. Thank you, man, to Sleep for sponsoring this video. But now, y'all need some enlightenment. Right after a little nap, because your boy kinda tired now still. For a quick summary, because his past is important for the context I will later provide, DDG, born Daryl Dwayne Granberry Jr., is a 27-year-old from Pontiac, Michigan. He, alongside his other 4 siblings, didn't come from a place of means, but the philosophy of education and discipline was ingrained in them at a young age. DDG always had a creative bone in which he leveraged, whether it be boxing, music, or filming, which would be the foundations of what we would later see to be the essence and conglomerate force of the media he produces today. Due to his creative ambidexterity, he's been able to transition and move seamlessly throughout the various areas of internet entertainment without really losing any steam in significant gulps. He's been around the scene for a while, making content older than some of his fans. No, this is not a joke. I need some of y'all to digest that after you see the type of content he makes. Since 2014, where his first round of content wasn't the vlogs, pranks, and the lifestyle vids, but instead gaming videos, playing games like Minecraft and Call of Duty, and all under the handle of Sneak Mode. But will later transition into Pontiac DDG, paying homage to his late brother Darian, who unfortunately was murdered that same year, but this would be the shift in which inspired DDG to take his content more seriously and become more active in the space of content creation, which saw a surge after being given a camera by his mother to really amp up the quality of his work. From that point on, DDG would further elevate the output and overall production of his content, amassing both an influence and revenue from content creation. He was also valedictorian, which is a running joke in which he has with his viewers. With his ever-growing success and the financial independence he was growing from this, reported to be bringing in over 30 to 50k a month, he would decide to drop out of college and move to Los Angeles to become a full-time content creator. In this shift, DDG would create content that was more contemporary within the style of that time. The parodies, the skits, the very early millennial Gen Z coded Vine content that many people grew up watching, and the worst of all, those diss tracks. I don't even want to talk about those times. Let's just forget that was a thing. DDG knew how to capitalize through controversy irrespective of how it made him look, and further pushed his platform to new heights. It was around this time he also started to take his music more seriously, something he was always tapped into, but he would start doing features with more notable artists that would grow over the years, such as Coi Leray, Blueface, DaBaby. He did a feature with DaBaby in 2025. Those with foresight see the connection I'm already beginning to make with this, but I'll get to that later on in the video. We cannot deny the fact that DDG has most definitely been a very influential agent within the space in which he operated in, and was able to swiftly translate that over into the streaming world to where he is one of the more popular and notable streamers, within the most popular form of streaming right now, IRL content. But he doesn't represent a work hard until you get it story. He doesn't represent a no matter what other people say, do what you gotta do and what you're most passionate about story either. Those days where these universal messages of surface level inspirations are now lost upon me. I no longer think we should allow someone's background or iconography to prevent them from being criticized the way they need to. No, I'm not just talking about they're loud or they're really annoying or any other form of baseline problem. I'm talking about, in addition to their associations with people that support those that continuously run oppressive systems, they also promote ideas and realities that further illustrate the self-consuming, highly gluttonous nature that exists within the Black community. You see, DDG's problem isn't necessarily rooted in who he is as a person, but instead who he believes he now has to present himself to be for capital and influential gain, who he associates with, and how he allows the environment to affect and change his personality. Environment being physical, living in LA, and social, the people he hangs around with. Throughout the last couple years, he has been more and more prevalent both through his excessive exposure in the streaming world and his relationships with Hailey Bailey. Now, both are conversations of immense controversy, especially in the latter. He represents a strand of Black celebrity completely ensnared in the realm of everything I do must be for the purpose of monetization and building my platform, even if it comes at the expense of my family. With the Black community, We are not identified by enlightened judgment, but menial attempts to claim power via platforms that highlight the very worst of our culture in ways you don't think about because of how much money it brings the individuals that promote that very thing. We do not promote and look to advocate towards a better culture that highlights an intellectual capacity, but an exploitable one, and then get mad when said assets are exploited by non-black people despite investing and inviting those very non-black people into these spaces and conversations, give them an opinion, prestige them, and then create internal conflict by way of wanting these people cancelled or deplatformed. What DDG has done has forced himself to get closer and closer into the sense of that conflict that will not breed a resolution, which, starting with his relationship with Hailey Bailey, is a very tumultuous one in recent months. Quick disclaimer, this is not no gossip channel, and I really couldn't care less about their love life, if anyone got cheated on, whether or not that was Ruby Rose's shirt. That aspect isn't important within the context of what I'm talking about. So if you want a summary on that, go tap in with the Shade Room or something. Actually, no, don't go over there, fuck those guys. But post the birth of their son and their subsequent breakup a little less than a year later, their relationship has been strained and completely publicized, and there's already a crack into DDG that is far more problematic than this timeline of the relationship itself. To him, like all IRL streamers, no matter what they say, everything is content. They don't know how to dissociate real life from streaming, which is something they only do when it comes at the expense of their image. But when DDG brought his son Halo onto Kai's stream, Hailey, understandably, had strong reservations about the streaming world having all their eyes on her son like that.
They said, give me the bottle.
You're a different type of baby, bro.
No, clip that, clip that. Yo, clip that.
And knowing the controversy that would be surrounding DDG and his family, it doesn't bode well both towards him nor his associates for condoning the behavior, therefore enabling it. But this is where I'm going to show you where a well-crafted perception meets reality. DDG would be defending Hailey Bailey's reaction to this, only to jump to his viewers a few months later talking about how Hailey is preventing him from seeing his son Halo. But during this, he claims that he doesn't like to bring his real life into this. This being the streaming world. The problem with IRL streaming is that the excessive use and consumption of it we, the viewers, conduct and expose to it, make it so that their real life is just another channel to us, and therefore it's all we see. Their life is content for us, and when we don't get it, we feel entitled to it, which, in truth, is exactly what it was leading to. Twitch is the most popular live streaming platform. It hosts some of the biggest entertainers in the world right now. But we don't see them as people anymore. We see them as channels. We see them as Jim Carrey on The Truman Show. Just like how we did back then when we used to watch TV. Want to watch news broadcasting and political opinions? Hassan. Want to tap into music, news, and everything that revolves pop culture? Sean C. Want to tap into late night channels that you don't want your moms catching you watching because it showcases nastiness and filth? Asmongold. Add the fact you now need individual subscriptions on top of a Twitch turbo to avoid these excessive ads. Twitch have successfully been able to not only increase their collective viewership retention, but their revenue, consuming billions of hours of content a month, and leading contributors in this are those like DDG. With his family on the forefront amidst a controversy of custody, it's going to naturally inspire more viewers to bask in the drama and make content out of it. In the more recent months, there have been alleged reports of domestic abuse conducted from DDG as per court documents submitted by Hailey. There are those that doubt Hailey, and in doing so, they doubted her the literal second the news came out. Aiden Ross is known to affiliate with shitty people and alleged abusers, and he doesn't actually care about black culture, caring only as far as how much he can profit as he can extract from it, but that's for another day. While this came out whilst he was on that clan member stream, what would follow after that was nothing short of a typical behavior of new age celebrity caught in the limelight. Despite these allegations of abuse being at the forefront, you would assume one would work within the better interest of public perception and of their brand to not feed into such activities or characteristics that makes DDG come across as someone who acts like he doesn't have these allegations against him. Instead, what does he do with this image? He goes to streaming university and talk about internet beef and entertain some business with India Love. Then, following this after, he would keep up this relationship with India, and then he would engage in this very feudal spat with another streamer known as Lil Rodney's son, or Reggie. Their beef can also be summarized as two emotional people taking it too far, with DDG talking about Reggie's dad, and Reggie talking about DDG's brother, and how he can't see his kid, with a bunch of other struggle streamers trying to capitalize and further instigate this weird-ass nigga moment for clicks, engagements, and views. Upon learning more and more about DDG, his background, and seeing where he's arrived at, I can't help but acknowledge this in the perspective of a black man in his youth who is trapped in a constant and endless struggle to garner success, relevancy, and money by any means necessary, image be damned. While many look at his success story as one of strife and paving his own identity, be it corny or not, that's not the examination we can afford to have on the baseline anymore. You have to see, dissect more accurately, at the culture in which he contributes in producing and spreading amongst the impressionable youth who see more value in obtaining metrics at the cost of moral manners and representation. Case in point, to show and further display himself in promiscuous manners whilst pending allegations were over his head and his suitability as a father remains a legal question. This shouldn't be a question whether or not we should wonder if this is good for any collective anymore outside of advancing the pockets of individuals, but we should be condemning the overall identity it places upon the culture to where it has inspired adults, grown-ass adults, to copy the script of these very streamers, adults and grifters that will either exploit the community purely for recognition and gain. This is no longer the passive case which we debate whether or not it's worth ignoring anymore. This shit cannot be ignored because it literally breaches the veils into politics and socio-economical manners both overtly and covertly. Would you not think, after being met with allegations of abuse, that you'd put yourself in environments that do not aid into that image you're trying to protect? Or does the necessity of content outweigh the severity of the situation you are placed in? We need to call out hypocrisy when we see it. For example, the same people donating to DDG, Kai, all them boys are the same ones that will go on Twitter the next day saying all female rappers do is talk about their coochie and wonder why they get objectified. At some point, it'll be easier if somehow just openly identify as a misogynist so it can make it easier to... While I understand their fan base are predominantly around 16 to 25, I would argue it's what makes this as bad as it is, as you have usually the most free time of your life during this age range. So what you are subjecting yourself to is, let's say, the idea that a majority of female streamers are annoying, trash, bad, Twitch favors them, and their need to sexualize themselves for clout, but then support this shit.
What?
You can tell you something.
Huh?
Why you ain't going off?
What? Huh?
Yeah.
Wait, huh? Wait, whoa.
Yeah, we're calm.
Wait, whoa, okay, whoa.
Once again, the hypocrisy has reached areas in which we can no longer ignore. In addition to this, DDG serves as one of the worst agents displaying the image of a black man who believes their hard work and persistence in the content creation field should yield admiration, and this is where I need you guys to follow me as I walk him down. DDG doesn't come from a place of means. Pontiac, Michigan is a place with extremely low economic opportunity, high crime rates, and poverty. The combination of these things is going to produce a difficult lifestyle for anyone from there, especially a few decades ago compared to now. This experience has most definitely shaped DDG's perception on life, what it means to make it and work hard, and most importantly, money and how that plays into creating the identity, image, and lifestyle necessary to make it in this content creating shit. However, his identity is now contingent on the stability and growth of his economic position, to where if it is threatened, then the very platform he has worked to build will lose that security. In understanding the black bourgeoisie, being agents of corporatocracy, they are individuals that, while heavily influential towards the superstructure of the black community, they themselves make no meaningful shifts outside of individualism. Even his mantra, grind until it's a lifestyle, glorifies participation in free market trade, copious spending, and subsidizing communal action that leads to social goods and benefits. Put upon looking further at this, do you know why I think, given the information present, he purports this ideology? He needs you, the viewers, to glorify the bourgeois lifestyle that he exotifies, because if you don't, and if you, en masse, acknowledge that it is a complete heat haze, he will go broke. And since he has attached his identity and money and social status linked to that, if he goes broke, he becomes nothing. This is what I mean. Watch this clip of him talking about how if he doesn't work, he will not be able to afford the lifestyle he has.
I have to make money. My bills are high. Did I tell you how much my bills is a month? Nigga, my bills high as shit. Like, if I don't work, I'm gonna go broke ASAP. Like, I have to work. I don't have a choice. You feel me? Like, it ain't about me trying to just pocket some money. I have multiple homes, multiple cars. I have family. I have a child. Like, I spend a lot of money.
Okay, now watch this clip of him explaining what he's wearing.
The whole suit is Dolce & Gabbana, by the way, just in case y'all was wondering. And this tank top y'all keep roasting is Saint Laurent. Remember, she got a sneeze. Whenever you got a sneeze, I got a $250 napkin for you.
Do you know those type of people that try too hard to let you know that they got that shit on? Man, these white folks be everywhere, bro. God damn. What? Ils vont se revendre. Now, look at these two clips and you'll see the anchor point as to why he needs you to really valorize his life. He needs you to acknowledge that his trash fit is expensive to glorify the lifestyle with the hopes that it inspires you to desire that lifestyle for yourself. Note, this isn't the same as wanting nice things. This is glorifying what he wants us to think is the surplus, but that surplus can only exist if we validate this bullshit. It doesn't matter if you think he's ugly, if you think he can't dress, or if you think his music is trash. The thing that matters the most to him is the fact that he is rich and you are not. As long as that upsets you, it will please him. But it won't please him because you're mean to him. It will please him because you're making him money. And like I said, as long as he's making money, he will be okay in understanding the fact that he is a loser. While this isn't uncommon by any means, the braggadocious nature that runs rampant in the black community isn't unique to entertainers, streamers, or rappers, especially in the modern age. The excessive and further increased promotion of it nowadays is most definitely the furthest thing from inspirational and motivational. DDG worked hard to escape poverty, only to get on those who are broke in 2025, despite understanding that without those very people he depends on, he'd be broke too, by his own admission. He flirts with all types of women despite and maintains the tag of being corny or cringe to great degrees. He doesn't do anything to support anything that goes against the social detriment he promotes. You know, given how he's transformed over the years, who he represents, how he represents himself, and who he associates with, he really does remind me of someone. The excessive bragging of his wealth, the simp behavior towards women, the co-parents in the music. I finally get what DDG stands for, because he's damn near the streamer's version of him. DDG, Drake's doppelganger. See, it all makes sense now. Both of them are very corny individuals that jump on whatever trend is popular before hopping on to the next one, aligning themselves with big industry names, but their clout becomes their identity. Sure, culturally, financially, popularity, the two are different, but in terms of character, corniness, and their gross and cringy display of wealth and status, DDG is who Drake would most likely be if he were also a streamer. They both look for constant social validation, are obsessed with their image on social media, and they feel like they have to have a constant need to prove themselves when in truth, they're both just very sad and pathetic. But it's by choice. It's by acknowledging the fact that there's money involved on it. It's by acknowledging the fact that without this, they would be forgettable at worst and negligible at best. In the case of DDG, he knows how both controversy and rage baiting works in this era of media. He's fully aware and conscious of every decision he's making when stepping into the public spotlight, and he has known this for years. hence why he was able to transition so seamlessly into streaming, because IRL streaming is becoming one of the most disgusting, low-hanging forms of entertainment that people, especially those within the black community, are so drawn to and inspired by, because it's relatively low effort and easy attention. Not only that, he has fallen deep into his delusions of grandeur, lost so far into the fog of his own influence and relevance, to assert that he stands amongst a different echelon of musicians who have broken from that YouTuber music artist tag. While we can admit he is one of the few to take his music more seriously, taking something more seriously doesn't mean it's good. Now, I'm not gonna comment on the quality of his music, because to be fair to him, it's not actually relevant to the critique, but how he goes about asserting himself into those prestigious conversations, claiming even if you had a feature with Drake and Adele was on the hook, he'd still be bigger than you.
Bro, I paved the way for a nigga like Reggie to even have a chance to even fucking think that he can make music and succeed in this shit. I'm the nigga that paved the way, brother. I'm the nigga that did this shit first. I'm the nigga that made it cool for motherfuckers to make music from YouTube and do all this other shit. So you need to respect me. You were never in your entire life a living make it as far as me when it comes to this music shit. I don't give a fuck if you get a fucking feature from Drake himself and Adele on the hook. You will never be as big as me in music, ever in your life. You cannot sell no tickets. You can't do no shows. No one knows your music. Plain and simple. Whatsoever.
If he is not being intentional about these statements, then it really does give everything I'm saying more credence about not only how he perceives you, his fans, and in truth, his consumers, but hip-hop, the very music genre he capitalizes on as a means to an end to further perpetrate him and only him. Once again, another similarity to Drake. Him being a loser will always go viral, and as long as that's the case, he will continue to make money and remain in those conversations. I mean, this video is proof of that. However, the message of this video, if it hasn't been clear already, is one I've been saying since the very beginning. Only now I say it with true explicit nature and intent. DDG, this video even, is merely a prelude to a larger issue. You see, everyone says you complain and you scrutinize so much, but what are you doing / what actionable actions must we take? And honestly, the first one is the hardest one y'all constantly fail at time and time again. Labor wise, it's the easiest, but it's not being executed correctly because psychologically we are predisposed to remaining stagnant in this. But it's simple. These streamers that are connected to a much larger issue of that, as I said in the beginning, have now breached the political, social, economical ether that determines the next years of our social lives. They hold far more power than we should have given them, but this can only happen if there becomes a collective understanding of the task at hand. The DDGs, AMPs, J-Syncos, Rakais, all those lifestyle strands of streamers, I'm going to tell you in great detail why they don't just need to go, but they need to go, and we need to make sure that they stay gone.